Githzerai preamble. No, damn it.
Hello and welcome. I am of the firm belief that I am James.
And today, I really, really think that I am Emme.
And welcome back to the Bestiary, Monster Manual A to Z. And today we are looking at
The Githzerai.
the Githzerai, the other half of the Great Schism in the Gith society that happened millennia ago. The Githzerai are spiritual and philosophical.
Yeah, and still a little unpleasant, which is why once again we are going to say
Content
this
warning.
is a content warning. So again, the Gith and the Githzerai do not have a terrifyingly pleasant history, and there are things about that could be a little upsetting and probably are a little bit upsetting. And if this is something that's going to affect you, you need to keep yourself sane, happy, and healthy first and foremost. So if you're going to watch this one any further, we are going to be talking about slavery. We are going to be talking about childhood trauma and death. So take care of yourself. Do what you need to do.
But,
They're a lot. The Githzerai a lot. And they're, even for the Gith, which are kind of odd,
Githzerai are weird.
they're very, very, very odd and not necessarily knowable. They live their life in such a removed fashion that understanding their motives and their designs is inherently difficult because they are, in many ways, even more than the Githyanki, alien in the way that they are trained and the way that they are dedicated and in the way that they live.
Yeah. Followers of the teachings of Zerthimon, who was one of the primary leaders of the Gith during the Great Rebellion against the Illithid, led by Gith. Zerthimon disagreed with the way in which the war was being prosecuted, and so kind of suggested a different way of living.
Yeah, he suggested maybe we shouldn't just torture ourselves and kill other people for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And that was a problem, apparently.
Yeah. And this is mainly what led to the great breaking apart of the peoples of the Gith. Whereas the Githyanki reside on the astral plane, the Githzerai make their home on the plane of Limbo, plane of chaos. Which, being creatures of order and discipline, is quite significant because a lot of their effort and their focus and their training goes into just not losing their minds.
Basically, it's purely, can you survive doing this, and can you hold the cities and the monasteries that you live in together? Because part of your very important job is literally holding it together. They went to the plane of chaos because their leader today is Menyar Ag, and he believes and teaches that one day Zerthimon will return, and they need to be ready for his return, and they need to show that they did things that were difficult. And so building an ordered monastery out of the stuff of chaos, not only is the plane of chaos inherently freaking impossible to traverse, it's chaos, so it's very well defended. It also means that they have to consistently hone and practice their minds to continue to build their cities, which they conceptualize into existence.
Yeah. I think, therefore I am, and so is that.
It's so brain hurty. It's so brain hurty.
They don't have one centralized settlement. They more have a series of kind of small fortress monasteries that drift throughout the plain. But the largest, and so the closest thing they have to a capital city, is Shraktlor. There's a couple of apostrophes in there.
Yeah, which give us pause. Okay.
Ugh.
Anyway, Shraktor is the biggest monastery, and they drive them. It doesn't exist in one place. They drive their monasteries and their citadels through stuff.
Yeah. This is where it gets really weirdly metaphysical. If they feel like they need to conform towers or pillars or like essentially like gigantic bullets of adamantine,
Yep.
adamantine,
Yeah,
whatever
that
that are themselves filled with raw chaos, and they'll just go like wham and just fire it into a place, basically.
yeah. Or they can traverse planes using them too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is they do actively come to the material plane for several reasons. Unlike the Githyanki, who avoid the material plane, generally speaking, because it ages them, the Githzerai age and die at a fairly normal status. Yes, status.
Yes.
And so they will go to the material plane for several reasons, primarily because they're actually a little evangelical.
Oh yeah, no, they very much have the attitude of it is not enough to just prepare ourselves, we have to spread the word. And that involves everything from finding psionically gifted beings and maybe asking them, hey, do you want to be involved in this whole war thing we've got going on? And maybe also could we tell you about our Lord and Savior Zerthamon?
Yeah.
But they have this idea that theirs is the way, and others must see the way, and if they can't see the way, they will be shown.
Yeah.
Forcefully.
Sometimes, at the very least, if you don't seem interested in what they're teaching or doing, they'll at the very least be like, nah, and just leave you alone with no particular explanation. They don't feel the need to explain themselves. That's the other thing, is because they're deeply practiced warriors. They don't necessarily feel the need to explain themselves to everyone. They don't necessarily believe that they're better than you because they have like a right to anything. They believe they are better than you because they've been practicing their whole life to have their city not fall through their head sideways. So somehow, I don't know.
I mean, it's possible.
It's possible, that's the thing. And so they just believe that they've been practicing this for so long that they don't have to explain stuff to you. And they also believe that there's a lot of evil in the world, namely the Elitha, the Mind Flayers, and the Githyanki, and that these things must be removed in order for the world to continue on a more righteous path. They have a deeply aesthetic and monastic existence, and so they lead these incredibly rigid lives. And because of that, their morality is as such that removing evil is super important, no matter what that means.
And to the Githzerai, this the end can justify some pretty extreme means. Their solution to the potential evil in their eyes that a future Githyanki warrior might represent is to, if they find a creche of Githyanki eggs, they will destroy them.
They will absolutely go out and find training grounds for Githyanki and wipe it out, which is, again, one of those things where you're like, are you sure you're the good guys?
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, exactly, because that's such an unpleasant and horrible thing to do, but to their mind, those Githyanki children will have a deeply tortured and horrible existence and grow up to be horrible, torturous people. So they are removing that evil from the world, which is, again, okay, sure, but they're thinking so many steps ahead of where we are that they're either way ahead and super planned, or maybe just kind of losing sight of stuff.
Yeah. In any case, whether they're right or wrong, that surety of conviction and just absolute unshakable faith in their belief, I think, is really well represented in the artwork. Just that stance, that facial expression, it covers so much of what make the Githzerai what they are. There's that martial artist fighting stance, there's the long flowing robes, there's that just furrowed brow of, I will do what I must.
You know, the expression is everything to me, because, again, like you were saying, these clothes, I mean, they're stylistic. You can tell they belong to a Gith, but more importantly than anything else, you can tell they're plain and simple clothes of somebody who's not thinking about it that hard. It's the expression more than anything else that tells me what he's looking at, what he's thinking. He's prepared. He knows that whatever he's going to do is what is necessary. And again, that can be really, really interesting and cool, but it also just a little bit terrifying. If they're interested in the same thing that you're interested in and want the same thing that you want, these guys could absolutely be your friends. But they are very, very powerful. I mean, again, we keep talking about the Gith and their weird corpse leaders. Menyar Ag is so old that he can't move anymore, and he exists as almost an entirely psionic being. He can kill you with his thoughts.
But don't ask him to, go for a walk.
No, he's not able to do that anymore. His body is fallen so far into disrepair because he's many, many thousands of years old somehow. And I mean,
he has meditated so hard that he is sort of broken.
Kind of, in a little bit of a way. And I mean, when we're looking at these basic stats, once again, every single Githzerai you meet, much like the Githyanki, is a trained warrior. They are absolutely, every single one of them, trained for the higher purpose of war. So we have a Githzerai monk. He's a challenge rating 2. Again, that's not a joke when you're talking about how
That's just the regular guy.
That's just a regular guy. Most people that you're walking through a city, they're going to be challenge rating quarter, maybe?
I mean, if you go with a commoner, I think they're a quarter.
They're a quarter. This is just a guy. And yeah, they use wisdom as a spell casting. They don't wear armor because, again, the basic guy's a monk. They make unarmed strikes. They have very similar
psionic abilities.
Yeah, psionic abilities, similar but different. They have different spells, but again, similar. And then we have a Githzerai Zerth, challenge rating 6. And again, these are the basic guys in the monster manual. There are higher levels of Githzerai, so they're not necessarily fun to fight, and there might be things you need from them, but they also might just be fighting you.
You might represent a threat that you don't even know you are.
Exactly. It's like that Minority Report thing about well, why do you think I'm a bad person? And they're like, 'cause future thinks. Yeah, you might do something. You're gonna do something bad right now, and you're like, you're working for someone bad.
I mean, there are a few things more dangerous than a zealot who is convinced he's right.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on The Bestiary Monster Manual A through Z. Have you ever discussed the meditation practices of the Githzerai with one of their practiced artists? Please let us know about it in the comments down below. I'd really love to say what they told you. And while you're there, you can check out all the links to all of our social media. You can subscribe to this channel. You can like the video. You can watch some more of our videos. And join us next week when we are talking about the nose. I definitely didn't just flip the page to make sure what was actually next week.